We are live. We are live. I am going to set the Instagram live here. And there we go. All right. We are live. Welcome back to another episode of What the Frac Live, where every week we break down marketing tips, trends, topics, unpopular opinions, everything you could think of. And we bring on amazing guests who are doing it, doing the thing, building the companies, running the marketing campaigns right now so that you can learn how to put it into your business. And we try to do it in about 20 to 30 minutes or less. It never happens. But quick before we jump in today, I have an announcement. We are officially on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as Amazon and YouTube. So wherever you stream podcasts, you can get caught up on all the episodes of What the Frac, including the lives. So go check it out, follow, do your thing, and get caught up. Well, Tamara, how are you today?
I cannot believe this week is flying by. So that's where I am today. It's just flying by. And I'm so excited. I feel like I haven't dug in to marketing stuff in like several days. So this conversation is going to be so refreshing to me.
Yes. Well, today, as you can see, we have the lovely James Archer here. I actually don't know James very well. We met on LinkedIn, and I was so impressed by his background and the things he's working on today that I was like, you need to come on the live, because as far as I understand here, James, you've worked with some pretty big corporations, some pretty big marketing teams. You've had a lot of years of experience building your own agency. And then you decided to go fractional, which is exactly what we talk about here is, you know, those big topics around marketing and fractional. So tell us a little bit about your history and how you ended up as a fractional.
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of started out, you know, probably my entry into the industry was, I was you know, when I was in community college, I had a lot of free time between classes, and I would go in the computer lab and sit and play video games. And so the computer lab techs, I was kind of known to them as like, oh, it's the guy who always sits over there and plays video games. And so one of the managers came over and slapped this brochure down next to me and said, why don't you make yourself useful? And it was a brochure on how to learn HTML. And so, and this is back mid 90s. So this is real early, like Google didn't exist, YouTube didn't exist. None of this stuff existed back then. And so I was like, oh, fine, I'll show her. I'll actually learn this stuff. And so, you know, pretty quickly, like, you know, there weren't that many people that knew how to build websites. And so then, you know, the college hired me, and then ASU hired me. And, you know, we're just kind of got around, hey, we have one who actually knows how to do this stuff. And so that kind of pulled me in. And, you know, eventually, like, as I'm working other jobs, I'm just kind of doing this stuff on the side or volunteering or whatever. And eventually kind of reached a point where I'm like, I think I could just do this full time. Like, there's enough demand for web work. Every business needs a website. And, you know, that wasn't the case before, but, you know, I was doing this while that stuff was developing. And all of a sudden, like, all these businesses have no idea how to get a website, but they know they need one. And so they, you know, started pulling me in, and I'm doing freelance work. And then finally I just went full time. And, you know, as I'm building all these websites, I'm realizing none of these companies have brands. None of them know anything about their messaging. None of them have any other stuff. They're like, hey, you're a designer. Can you also design this? And next thing I know, I run a marketing agency, and I'm hiring people, and it's like the whole thing is just going out of control. So that's essentially what I did. I did that for 12 years. And we were pretty successful, got lots of big clients, got well known just for our approach and our philosophy. You know, we were very user-centric and human-centric, and for whatever reason, I just had a knack for doing this. I think that came from watching my dad, who was an entrepreneur. He ran a roofing company, and he would send out direct mail things every time we went into a new town or whatever. He'd send out direct mail, and all the kids would sit around the dining table licking stamps and sending out, you know, these cards and stuff. So like, it was just ingrained in me. So I had a knack for it, and basically started doing that, ran that agency for 12 years. Eventually kind of decided that I wasn't a huge believer in the agency game, at least as I saw it being played, because I wanted to go deeper. You know, when you do an agency, you're always a little bit on the outside, and I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to try in-house and just stay with one brand full time for years and see what happens. So I eventually kind of started like phasing out and wound up selling the agency to a larger international digital agency, which worked out great. I stayed there for 2 years and then bailed. And so went in-house, worked as head of design for a software company, was a product director for another technology company. And then one of my former clients came to me and they had just gotten funding for a new startup and they wanted me to be their first outside hire. I came in as chief of product, but wound up chief marketing officer as the company grew enough that we had people to cover the product stuff as well. And so that's what was doing for the last 6 years, was being an in-house CMO. So I have, the freelance side, the agency side, the in-house CMO side, and kind of got to the stage of like, okay, I'm good with corporate. I've had enough experience with corporate of just doing the same thing over and over, and and dealing with all the the politics and the sluggishness and all that can kind of come with that. So when things ended there, and I decided, what, I don't want to just sit there and sling out PDFs and try to get another job and wind up, I'll probably have to move out of state for the kind of like work that I do. It's going to be some random company in Ohio or something, or New York or California. Last time I interviewed, it was miserable because I was flying all over the country to do these interviews. So I just want to stay here. I want to do my thing. I know how to run a business. I know I can do this before because I've sold enough to run an agency, so I should be able to sell enough to run myself. And so I talked to my wife, and we kind of thought, you know what? I think it's just time to do this. We're tired of putting our fate in other people's hands. We're just going to go on our own and do our own thing.
So how long have you been at it? How long have you been pursuing the fractional path?
About 8 weeks.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to ask you, and actually maybe it is good to ask you, like, what are you finding are the things that are just smooth sailing, easy, and what are the challenges that you're finding that you're like, okay, this is something that I didn't foresee happening, and this is a challenge? That's
a great question. So I think the part that is smooth sailing is having run an agency for so long. Like I have no problem. Okay, come up with the contract, get the LLC, do this. Like the business side of it, I'm very familiar with. So I could just hit the ground running, and literally within like days, I had most of that stuff put together. And even just the business side, negotiating with clients, setting prices, agreeing on terms, figuring out scope, all that kind of stuff. I just been through that rodeo so many times that I was just like, okay, I know how to do this. I'll put this together. Here's the thing, and move forward. The part that's a challenge, of course, is when you're starting a business, everything you do, it's the first time ever. Now, you might even know how to do it, but it's like, okay, I need to post on Instagram. So I need to create an Instagram account. So now I need a profile photo. Like every one thing you try to do has 12 steps that you have to do before it. And so it's just been a scramble of like, I have to do these 700 steps because none of this stuff is done. And I'm just, I got to create a digital brochure. I got to set up, the email campaign, like all that stuff. So it's just been a mad dash. And it's good that there's kind of a ramp up as you're trying to get the clients going, because if I were full up with clients right away, I'd never get any of the stuff done. So I'm just kind of digging in, I've got some clients, I'm working on them frantically. And then, I'll stay up late and get all this other stuff, fix the website and can, figure out a glitch with a WordPress plugin and all that kind of stuff.
It's almost, I was going to say, it's almost like a curse, right? Because you're a marketer, so you know all the things you should be doing.
Terrible. It's
terrible.
And
you're like, I need to do them all yesterday. And then you're like, wait, I'm used to having a team. And so now, wait, I'm the team, right? So you're doing all of the pieces and trying to figure it all out together. And it's funny because I come from a very similar background to you. My dad started a web company in '99. Nice. So I learned HTML code when I was like, 7 years old. I was like helping people on their MySpace pages, like code. And then grew up in like
MySpace is largely responsible for a large portion of the web industry. Like let's not joke about that. Like if it weren't for MySpace,
I know, it's seriously
we would not have the development industry that we have.
I think we're gonna have to put a link or like a Wikipedia page for what MySpace is for anyone who is under 30 watching this.
Seriously.
Like it's
I know. Yeah. I was the cool kid who put all like the songs and like had the creative themes and like everyone wanted one, right? Because I knew how to HTML code. And so I started building websites. And, it just came to a point where like all of a sudden I needed extra people and extra hands because I had too many clients. And
Yep.
the one thing you learn about businesses right away when you do their website is you realize they don't really know how to communicate about their product, most
Right.
of them. And that's where, same thing, we started to move into. I realized I was doing a lot of consulting around marketing and not getting paid to consult about marketing, right?
Yep.
I was getting paid to build a website. And so then morphed into a marketing company. And so where I'm going to go with this, the question I'm going to go with this is, I heard a lot, and I had a lot of pressure on me of like, you're really good at websites. Why don't you just stay building websites? Or you're really good at having an agency and you're very successful. You have lots of clients and money. Why not stay with an agency?
Yep.
And there's this pressure that like you're successful. And I think the unpopular opinion here for me is that like, you know what, just because you're successful money wise or to other people, like doesn't mean the agency model always works. And for most people who move into building an agency, I find that after a few years, they also agree that it doesn't always work for what they were doing. So did you feel that pressure moving forward, like moving into these different spots, like being at these big corporations and then moving, someone saying like, hey, you have a great job. Why are you giving that up for freelance or for
Absolutely. Yeah. This is part of the curse, right? The curse of being a marketer is that you know that the right answer is you just niche down and pick a thing and just do the thing and just be super good at that one thing and stay in your lane, and you will be the most successful. It'll be the easiest path and you'll probably make the most money. And I know a guy who did web, and we were kind of like, competitors early on. And he just stayed there and did that thing. Still does it today, doing great business. I'm super jealous of him. But some people are just nuts. And, we're probably those people, if you can see it, that's the problem. It's like, you can see the problem. And if you see it, sometimes it's just so hard not to do something with it. And to go build a website while you're watching your client fumble around with their brand. They don't understand it. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to talk about themselves. And you can see it. You can see it in your head. And you're like, if I could just get in there and talk to them about this, we could fix so much and their business would do better. And then their marketing materials and how they're running their digital campaigns and all that stuff. It's like the more you learn, the more you kind of have to do, because you can see the problem and it's just hard to just sit and walk past it.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a statement here, and we'll see if this is the truth, because the fractional game is so new that it's one of these things that in the next 3-5 years we're gonna see a huge explosion in fractional. But I think the people who are gonna be really good at fractional are those people who could not stay in the agency game, because agencies are set up for you to basically sell on very specific services, and stay very templatized or whatnot. And the people who get fed up with owning an agency are generally the ones who are trying to do the right thing for their customer. Now, I'm not saying all agency owners are, bad people, not at all. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just saying generally they tend to be specialized, which means they're selling a service, and that service is not perfect for everyone. We know this. Marketing is a very customized thing. So I feel like a lot of the best fractionals are going to be people who maybe had an agency, worked in an agency, realized that they couldn't get that customized service for each and every one of their clients, and then decided to do something about it. Like you just said, do something bigger.
I think that's a super insightful point. And I think that's one of the reasons that when I was running an agency, it could be argued that I didn't do it very well. Even like we were successful, we had great reputation, business was coming in, we were doing well. But I could have had an agency 10 times that size if I wanted to, and I knew what I had to do to make that happen, and I just didn't want to do it. And I don't think that's a business fault. That's just a personal decision. Like I didn't want to go down that path. I would have more money and be less happy if I did that. And I think that doing the right thing and making the most money don't always align perfectly. They overlap. There's a Venn diagram there, but they don't align perfectly. And I always consistently chose the path of I want to be free enough to do the right thing and be okay with the consequences of that. And both on the agency side as well as in corporate, it's sometimes hard to have ownership of that choice. and you are pressured financially, you are pressured from management, you are pressured from wherever, of like, well, we just want you to do this, whether or not that's the right thing. And I you know, when there, I felt a lot of those situations over the years, and every time it kind of reinforced to me, like, I want to be free enough to do the thing I know I should do and be okay with the consequences of that. And the only way I could really do that was to run my own business. And that's part of why I started my own agency in the first place. Was I'd worked at a digital agency prior to that, and there was stuff I was asked to do that I didn't want to do. There was stuff I didn't believe in. There were things I thought they could be doing better. And so I just said, fine, like, I'm not qualified to go start my own agency, but I'm doing it anyway. And that gave me the freedom to do things right. And that's what helped us find the success that we did find, because we found those clients who were looking for that kind of relationship, that kind of trust. And I was happier. I was always happier running my own business, not because I really needed to be my own boss, but because I never found the boss who would let me do the things that were right. You know, in the long run, over time, ultimately the financial pressures and other stuff kicks in, and it was just hard to find that freedom. And, you know, after I left my last job and started this process, and we had no clients, and we're like getting everything ramped up and all that, you know, she said, like, you look healthier. You're like, you're obviously happier. You're better. I should have been freaking out, because it was like, how are we going to replace my payroll and all that? But I felt great, because I was suddenly liberated from all that stuff that you don't realize are these like burdens sitting on top of you that just stack up over the years. And it's like, I don't have to go to that meeting that I shouldn't be going to anymore. I don't have to do this thing because someone asked me to do it, even though I don't think that's what we should be doing as a company. Like, all that stuff suddenly disappeared, and I could just make the decisions that I felt were right. And if those didn't make enough money, or they didn't, whatever, like, fine, I'm okay with that. As long as I'm serving my clients and it's working for them, and I'm making the best choices for their long term, I feel great. And I don't need to make $1 million doing that. I just, you know, I want to provide for my family. I want to do well, and I'm okay making less money doing the right thing than not.
It's so funny that you say that, because, like, Nicole, touching on what you said earlier, like, what is success? And the first thing that I thought about when I'm talking to people who are doing fractional now, like, the first thing they say is freedom, right? Success is that work-life balance, because for so many of us, it's been the opposite for so long. And so success turns into, the reason why you're doing fractional is, one, because you're passionate about the work you do. And then two, you get the freedom to do it on the terms that you want to do it. Yep. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that's really interesting. And I'm certain that some people who are doing fractional really struggle with that, because when they start off, it's so much work, right? And you're trying to find the right fit. So instead of just finding one job that you're going to work at, right, you're finding 3 or 5.
Yeah.
We're trying to make them all fit together.
Yeah. Fit together. You know, I know some people right now who are leaving major organizations to figure this out, right? Because they're at a time in their life that they want more time with their kids, and they don't want to be stuck to, like, the meeting schedule that they're in. They want to be able to go to kids' soccer games or graduations and all these, you know, different things. But figuring out how to make that work, that jigsaw puzzle, is maybe, I think, what I would think is one of the biggest challenges, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of being a fractional is amazing. Then how do you go, okay, well, I'm going to work with 3 companies, and all these 3 companies who want me as a C-suite executive at their beck and call have to now realize that I have 3 people who are all my top priority or 5, right? How do you now make that work?
And I think that success is something I talk about all the time, because I think that, like, in marketing, and societally right now, even if you scroll Instagram, right, you see like a reel, and someone's like, the only way to be successful is if you work 2 hours a week and you resell this master course. And then the next reel is like, the only way to be successful is if you own an agency. And it's just not true, right? Just like there's not one marketing plan for every company, there's not one life plan for every person, and it's based off of what success is for you, right? So I always tell my clients, like, okay, yeah, we could sit down, and we generally work through these workshops where we workshop what the product's going to look like in 5 years. What's the ideal business model? Like, what's all these pieces? But then I sit down with my actual client, and I'm like, okay, what do you want your life to look like? Because if you want this, we need to make sure it's going to fit into your lifestyle. And I think that so often we're like told at 16, like, hey, you need to pick a career, and then we build a life around that career versus picking a lifestyle and building a career around that. And nowadays, there's so many ways to make money. There's so many ways to be successful. It's not just put up a brick and mortar store, sell a product, and you have to do it that way. And that's one of the fun parts about marketing, is figuring out like, okay, just because you want to be in medicine doesn't mean you have to be a doctor anymore to be successful, right? So I think that like fractional is one of these pieces that I could sit here all day saying all three of us are fractionals. We could sit here and be like, it's the most amazing piece ever. But that doesn't mean that owning an agency is not great. I have friends who are amazing agency owners. I personally just I wanted to offer so many different services that I could not afford the amount of experts constantly to build that agency, right? So I found a different way to do it. And to Tamara's point, I started taking on all these fractional executive clients where I was like a fractional CMO, and realized there's a ton of brain power that has to go into that. And I can only take on X amount at a time. So how do I now figure out like, okay, can I get paid the amount I want to get paid? Can I have the freedom I want? And can I like give the amount of effort that I need to each of my clients? What is the amount of clients I can take on? And then how do I price my stuff because of that? So it's been a big challenge. And I don't know if you're dealing with that now, or if you've kind of jumped over that, being you've had all this experience as an agency owner before.
I'd say it's probably a little bit of both.
Really quick, I just have to say, Nicole, you brought up an image to me when you said like we should ask, young people what lifestyle they want, because I'm thinking if I was asked that, I'd be like somewhere on a beach. I wouldn't have picked New York, right? Like, what lifestyle do you want to have? I would like to be on the beach by 3 in the afternoon. Instead, I flew to New York and I started hustling, working 17 hours a day. But so side note on that, because that's the only thing I can.
And a lot of times when people talk about the freedom of going on your own, for people who aren't accustomed to it, that can just conjure up images of like, well, you just want to slack off and make a ton of money, and like, who doesn't? But it's not really that. It's more like, I don't want to work a job where they sell hammers, so everything has to be a nail. And if I'm talking to a client and the product that I typically sell isn't the right one for them, I want the freedom to tell them that, and to like the freedom to make the right choice for whatever it is. And but then that applies to me as well. If the right answer is I've got a family situation and I need to go spend time with my family right now, and I need to take a couple days off, and that actually happened to me pretty recently. So just after I started this fractional practice, I had a family situation and I had to leave town for a few days, and I had the flexibility to do that. I didn't have to ask approval. I didn't have to worry about how I was going to disrupt some other team. I didn't have to have people feeling like I'm taking too much time off. I could just do what I needed to do and trust myself to make those responsible decisions. And I think it's really just about like the thing that will drive us crazier than anything else is feeling like we can't do what we should. And I think that's in business, that's in our personal lives, whatever. We feel like I should be doing this, but I have all this pressure to do this over here. And, I think that's the cause of a lot of, depression and anxiety and stuff like that, is that dichotomy between those two things. And doing what we do is part of pulling those together and bringing what we should be doing and what we actually are doing that much closer together, which is just a better feeling, especially when you trust yourself and you have confidence in yourself and you can pull that off. A lot of people don't have that, and they're kind of stuck working, corporate jobs or 9-to-5 jobs or whatever, because they feel they need that blessing from someone else to do something. And I wish that were something that more people realize. There are a lot of, you go through LinkedIn and you're seeing people that get laid off all the time and telling their stories about how long they've been looking for jobs and how hard it is to find interviews and all that. And there's part of me that just wants to say, like, if you could just go on your own, if you had the confidence to go on your own and trust that you could pull that off, money could be happening sooner. You probably have a better long-term trajectory, but it's hard to find that confidence to do that. So when I'm talking to people in those situations, or even students who are coming up in the industry, it's kind of like we were talking about earlier, like there are other options. You know, the old options aren't the only options anymore. You can just go off and do your own thing and find ways to make that work creatively.
Well, I think it goes
Yeah,
to
and I think
point, though. You've got to be able to create like what is your business product though? Like how do you go about doing that? So like I do think you're right. Like there are so many options, but it is more complicated than just being like, I want to be a fractional or I want to, do this or so.
Yeah.
I'll let Nicole jump back in.
I was going to say, I think that like one thing, our audience who watches is generally business owners, fractionals, directors of marketing, like people who have very like independent type jobs. But I also want to make the point that like having a job is also not the worst thing, right? If that is what some people, I have seen a lot of people who've tried to go out and start their own company, and that anxiety of like, am I going to pay people? Am I going to be able to deal with these clients? Like, for instance, when I started my first company, I started with my brother, and he is one of the most genius programmers ever that you'll ever meet. He did not want to even have a phone on his desk because he didn't want to deal with clients. Whenever we'd have a meeting about like, hey, we got to pay bills, so we need to sell. He's like, I don't care. You go sell. I'm just going to code here. Right. And so he went and got an amazing job. Right. And he's super happy. So there's nothing wrong. I just want to put the caveat out there that if someone is happy in being not wanting to be an owner, right, there's nothing wrong with that either. And so maybe it is being a CMO at a company and having a little bit of autonomy in the fact that you are building the plans for that specific company, but not having to deal with hiring, not having to deal with firing, not having to deal with payroll, and not having to deal with all of those pieces. You could still find companies out there that you can get a little bit of that freedom if that's what fits into your life. And I kind of I'm going to pivot a little bit because we could talk about this topic for a really long time. I feel like, James, you're reading my diary out loud because I agree with you in so many ways. Fundamentals though, like as we're building, let's say I'm going from a corporate, I'm trying to become a fractional, or I'm trying to start an agency. For me, I think the biggest piece is building those processes that can really make it so that the fundamentals are set up so that when we talk about this all the time with like marketing teams being able to catch lightning in a bottle, you need the fundamentals built so that you can realize there's an opportunity and then take that opportunity. I feel like it's the same thing when you're going into agency mode or fractional or even freelance mode. Are you finding that's the case? And what's the number one process you've put in place that's really helped you?
Yeah, I think it probably is. It took a lot of years of me fumbling around running an agency to sort of get to the point that we were firing on all cylinders. And I was like, okay, we know how to do this. When a client comes in, here's the discovery process. Here's the ongoing process. Here's how we finish up a project. Here's the postmortem. Here's the ongoing retainer, like all that kind of stuff. And we had those kind of mechanisms figured out. I think part of it is it's okay for there to be a little bit of discovery chaos in the beginning, because you have to sort of fumble your way through some of that stuff, even when you know how to do it. Like even what I'm finding now is, I knew how to do it for the company that I ran at the time, but I'm going to have a slightly different sort of customer now. We're going to be working on slightly different sorts of things. So the nuances of that are going to shift. And I sort of, I'm a big believer in just like start doing stuff and then build structure around it, rather than, sit back in the beginning before you even have clients and try to master plan all your processes and things like that, because you'll be wrong. And, you'll create all this stuff and then you'll get in and you realize like, oh, I got to change all this. So it's good to go through the planning exercise in the beginning, kind of figure that out. And one of the first things I did was just try to say, okay, I've been in this industry for 25 plus years. I wanted to go through the exercise of taking everything I know and trying to put it on one page and just get to like, here, what are the most important things, and put that all on one page. And that helped for me clarify a lot of, this is what's important. These are the things I'm looking for when I'm coming in and I'm evaluating a company. I just like, it's almost like a checklist of this, and this big hole here. We've got to work on that. This is okay. We don't have to do this yet, but it's going to be coming. And I can see that pretty clearly now, instead of me fumbling my way toward it. So going through that exercise in the beginning was great. However, I would say, the packages and pricing and workflow and, automation systems I'm putting in place, I've been doing this for about 2 months, and I've already probably changed them 8 times. So it's like, it's okay for there to be some of that discovery chaos, because that's another way of looking at that, is that's letting yourself learn what the customer needs. That's like market research that you're doing really, really fast and iterating really, really fast on it. So I'm kind of taking a balanced approach of figure out what I can in the beginning, and then let some stuff be chaotic and see what shakes out of that.
I'm really
feeling that right now, right, Tamara?
I'm curious, because like one of the things that I've really learned over the past few years, and like this is with advising, like becoming an advisor as well. At the level that you're moving into a company or working with a company, it becomes much more personal and almost intrusive of the information you need to know before you engage in something, versus when you were just, either going in as like a contractor, like agency contractor, where it's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do for you. Here's the scope of work, and you're going to then pay for it. Going in as a fractional or advisor or any of that, like I have gotten much more aggressive with my questions, and like questions, even if I'm going in as a CMO or an advisor, about like financials of the company. How is it set up? What are their long-term objectives? What's their pro forma? I want to know these. I want to see how they're thinking through things, because if I'm going to give so much time, so much effort, strategy, right? How is this company set up? Are they actually thinking through it correctly to be set up for success, for me to come in and be a part of that success, right? It's a lot more, and I would say invasive, than just how I would have approached it before if I was either being hired by the company or contracting for the company.
Yeah, it's very much, I mean, you almost are like a therapist and counselor in a lot of ways. And, people sometimes underestimate how broad the scope of marketing is. I mean, in my mind, marketing is inclusive of the product itself. Is this, was this product market tested? Are the features and benefits of it like tied to what the market actually needs? Has someone asked those questions? Is anyone talking to the customers? The experience around it, the customer experience, and the design of things, and the workflows and the process, that's all part of marketing also. And then you have this promotional piece, which is like the piece everyone thinks of. So, when I come in, it's, really, I almost look at a CMO as like the number 2 in the company after the CEO. And half the time you're trying to like get the CEO to go the right direction, because people aren't trained on that stuff. They don't, I mean, how many customers have you had that built or created a product or launched whatever they do without ever talking to customers? They just thought they knew what they were doing, and they just take it to market.
Oh my gosh.
Like, did anyone think, like, what if we interviewed some people and saw if the market actually wanted this, and that would save you like 3 years of pain and reworking the product? But nobody does it, because nobody teaches business owners and entrepreneurs how to do that kind of stuff. So it's almost like you're coming in partially to be the number 2, and then partially, when you know what you're doing, to be the grown-up in the room, to say like, hey, we gotta, like, there are better ways to do this. Let's find out what the market actually wants and figure out how to orient the product around that. So I think it's one of those things where, you come in, but it's just such a fundamental relationship that it's like you're going deep. If you're talking to 2 business partners, you need to understand the beefs that they have with each other to be able to make this company work properly. So it's like at that level of communication.
Yeah, I even like to know, and I would like Nicole to know what you like, but I like financials, like, right? Like where did you get your funding? Where does it come from? How much runway do you have? What what are your projections? What do I have to work with if I come in? Right? Yeah. Like those are all things. And I think that when I was early in my career, I didn't ask those questions, and I ran into so many like situations where I was like, well, why did you bring me in? You don't have any money.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that, it's funny because, when you're an agency, like you were just saying, James, when you're an agency, you kind of have your project, and it's kind of like, okay, at the end of this project, if it didn't work, it didn't work. And like, we go our separate ways and everyone's happy. Right. But when you're a fractional, you're coming in, and I agree with you. I think that marketing fractionals, whether it's a CMO or it's a fractional CMO or it's an in-house, whatever, they need to be at the table, at that top table in the executive team. And so often what I see, especially, the step below corporate, in startups and things like that, what I see is that the marketing team is brought in afterwards.
Yep.
The sales director is almost, or the VP of sales is almost more of an executive than the marketing team. And I'm like, no, that's opposite. Now, I have a lot of respect for sales teams, but the sales team should be playing out what the CMO has put in place. And for a lot of people, they think, oh, we don't need marketing because we're not doing, like, social media doesn't fit for our buyers or whatever. And I'm like, wait, no. I'm working with a client now. I'm like, no, I get it. You're a sales driven company, but the sales team needs assets. They need messaging. They need decks. They need all these pieces that marketing should be supporting, and not just supporting, but they should be the ones driving. And so what I tell my clients is, like, we're getting married. Like, we're going to date right now. Yep. We're going to talk about all the things, the financials, like, do we want kids? What's our baby's going to look like, right? All these things, we're going to talk about them. And then we're going to get married, and you're going to literally have to be transparent with me, because marketing strategy is going to change. If you want to exit in 3 years, your marketing strategy is going to be a lot different than if you want this to be a $1 billion 20-year company where you're going to retire at, right? Completely different marketing plan. And I need to know those pieces.
Yeah. It's not a, keep secrets from the marketing team and just tell them what you want and they go build a thing. It can't be that way, because they'll build the wrong thing every time if they don't have that kind of overall insight of, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to be acquired? Are we trying to exit? Are we trying to, just go big with this company? Are we trying to do slow and steady? Are we, all those things make a difference, but you have to know that high level strategy, because I think it was Peter Drucker who said that, a company really has two functions. It's innovation and marketing. And everything else is just an expense related to those two things. And it's, you're even as fundamental as, like, what are you selling is a marketing question. And so it's, you have to be in there from the very beginning and work directly with the CEO on all the basics, all the fundamentals of, like, what is this company and what are we really doing here?
Yeah. So I want to just put some clear takeaways here right now. If you are a business owner listening to this, do not bring marketing in too late. Like, marketing needs to be in from the beginning. You need to have someone who you trust, who can be an advisor, who can understand. Don't hide things from them, right? That's how 99% of the time I find that marketing campaigns fail, or marketing strategies, not campaigns, marketing, like big plan strategies, and marketers are going to fail when things are hidden from them. They don't know all the information, right? If you are a fractional or someone looking to be a fractional, you are not alone. These are really uncomfortable questions to try to breach with people, and people do not want to give you these answers, but you have to ask them. Like, they just have to be asked. So you are not alone in that boat. So I just wanted to put that out there. Oh, last one, startups. If you are a startup, every time I work with a startup, they bring marketing in after they've gotten their investment, and they never have enough money set aside for marketing because they think it's going to sell itself or something like that. Yep. Bring a marketing advisor or mentor in from day one, before you go for money, before you put your budget together, before you put your burn chart together. Bring a marketing executive in.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean you have to go hire a CMO. It doesn't mean you have to have someone full time. It doesn't mean you have to be spending tens of thousands of dollars on this. But find someone you can go talk to once every other week for an hour and ask some questions and get some advice and get a kick in the pants of, like, hey, why are you doing this when you should be doing this? Like, that literally will shave years off your success trajectory. Yeah. To just get some of that information early on. Go talk to those people. Especially for startups, there are tons of mentoring opportunities available and events and areas where you can get they have mentorship programs. Like, go take advantage of those, get that advice. And yes, it's not what you want to think about. And yes, it's not what you feel like doing right now, but it literally will shave years off that trajectory.
I'll
put a plug. Oh, Tamara, I was just going to plug, if you're in Arizona, the Arizona Commerce Authority, and you're a startup or a small business, they have plenty of mentoring programs. I am a mentor. I don't know, James, if you're a mentor, but you can come get some mentorship. So please reach out.
Great plug. Well, I was just going to really quickly piggyback up what you guys said, and we call it marketing, but, like, really it should be called communications, right? Like, Communications is the key of this. It's how you communicate your brand in any vertical that you're doing it. And when it's called marketing, people just think, these very key things, which social media or ads, or where it's not. Like, it's communications. It's how you talk about your brand and how you spread brand awareness and how you get people to talk about you. So that, I think, is one. If I could get on my soapbox and talk about this, I would say marketing is communications.
Well, I think too, Tamara, the other thing with that James and I were just talking about how I personally think that there is a huge gap in the education needed around marketing and growing your business, right? That's part of the reason we started with the Frac, is because we felt that a lot of business owners, fractionals, CMOs, they didn't know how to speak the same language. There was not a lot of that education. And one of the pieces that I definitely have been talking a lot about is that not all marketers are the same. Right. So we went from this space where like we were super specialized and we wanted everyone to be very specialized on a specific task to we want the marketer who can do everything. And what's happening now is that there are a few different levels of marketers. You have your executional marketer. They're the people who are designing the social media posts. They're scheduling the social media posts. They're putting out emails, right? They are building the campaigns. What happens is they tend to be a little bit less expensive. Like they have a lower yearly salary. And so a lot of companies who can't afford a CMO level marketer tend to hire that marketer, not give them a plan, and expect for them to build the plan and execute, which is just not really in their wheelhouse. And there's nothing wrong with that. Then you have the CMO level marketers, which are the ones who are the strategy people. They're the ones looking at the data. They're the ones analyzing and figuring out what is the next step and how do we communicate. But they're generally not the ones who are going to be designing the posts and scheduling them. And if you have them doing that, you have a really expensive asset doing something that another team member can be doing, right? And then you have agencies, which a lot of times you're paying CMO level prices for an agency that's only doing the executional part of it, right? And so when you pick the wrong marketer, that's when you're going to start feeling like, oh, marketing is not for me, or I'm getting burned here. And when you have a puzzle piece, this is why fractionals are so fun, is that when you can puzzle piece this together, you have maybe you can't afford a CMO level, but you can afford a fractional to come in once a quarter, make sure the strategy's on plan, look at the data, make sure you're reading it correctly, make sure the team is trained and going in the right direction. And then you can pay executional marketers to come in and actually just execute the plan. And you'll see so much more success than just throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping it sticks, right? So I just wanted to make sure that that's something out there, is that marketers are not created all equally.
Yeah. And I think one of the important pieces of that is, like when if I come into a brand new client in an industry I've never seen before, and they're dealing with something, whatever they're dealing with, I've done before. And that's the thing, like their social media person or their designer or whatever that they're trying to press into service as being their marketing strategist. I'm sure they're great, but they haven't done that before. And they haven't seen, like, I think I should go down this path. And everyone thinks they should go down that path. And then you learn 7 times over that super doesn't work, even though that's your natural instinct. And you realize, like, oh, this smells like that situation again. I've been here before. What we actually have to do is this over here. And that's just perspective you get with experience and doing it the wrong way a bunch of times and losing money and gaining money. And like you go through that rodeo and you gain that experience that you can then come in and, half the time when I talk with a client, like we're barely out of the discovery meeting and their next 3 years of marketing are all solid in my head. Like I know exactly what they have to do. I can't even tell them about all that stuff yet because they're not ready to hear it. But I've been here so many times, like I know exactly what their next 3 years look like. So that's the perspective that you get when you bring in someone who has that experience, who has been through this before, who has done this across multiple companies and has seen where things work and where they don't work.
Yeah. So I'm going to wrap up here a little bit. I have 2 kind of things to jump on, but the first one is you mentioned before your wife. And I think that when we go fractional, when we start our own business, a lot of times we don't realize how lonely we talk about this a lot. It sounds really melancholy and emo, but how lonely being that piece is, because a lot of people don't understand, right? Like you said, you have freedoms, but that also means that you have to come back and maybe miss a few things and work on other times, right? And so I want you just to quickly touch on how important it is to have that support system and have, how your wife supports you in this decision to become a fractional.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a heavy conversation that we had talking through this, and if she wasn't on board, I wasn't going to do it. Because it is that two-part thing. You need that support system to be able to make that work. And there are pros and cons. I mean, there are we're already seeing situations where it's like I've got to help this client. We got to hustle on this thing. I'm going to be working 12 hours today. I'm going to have to miss this thing here. But there are also other times where I can leave in the middle of the day to go see, if there's a recital or something, like I can go do that. And so there are trade-offs to it. And also, as we get this figured out and as I'm more into this and things solidify and stabilize, that gets easier over time. But to bless her heart, she's been with me as a business owner before, and I ran an agency, and she had to go through all that madness, and she actually came in as our operations person for a lot of that time. And she has that same 1,000-yard stare that every business owner has when you talk about payroll. And it's like she knows, she's been there, and we've kind of always talked about our family. It's kind of like when we ran that business and when we run this one, it's like running the family farm. And she knows sometimes you got to go out at 2 a.m. because the cow's having an issue, and that's just what it is. And she knows, and she's on board for that. But if she weren't comfortable with that, if she didn't feel this was the right thing, I wasn't going to do it. But bless her heart, she's a great woman, and she knows what's up, and she had confidence in me, and so this is what we're doing. I
love that. I love a good support system, Tamara.
I know. I think it's vital, and it's vital to mental health. I mean, it can be lonely when you're doing remote and all of these things, but if you have that good support system, it makes all the difference.
Absolutely.
My life.
So I'm going to ask the last question that I've been asking every person who comes on our live. I love this question. Let's say I'm a business owner. I am an executive. I am looking to hire an agency or a fractional or marketing team. What are one of your, I don't want to call it favorite, but what is the red flag in our industry that we have to look out for?
I think it is, I've seen this with a lot of executives where, people will tell you because it's what they think they should tell you. They'll say, I just want you to tell me the truth. I want you to be honest with me. Give me your real honest feedback. And I'm going to take that, and I'm going to be humble and take that and run with it. And a lot of the people who say that aren't that kind of person. And if it's, sometimes they really just want a yes man. They want someone to go in and bow down to their ideas and tell them, yes, sir, I'll do exactly what you want me to do. But what you're looking for is, I think, the person who understands that they're hiring you because there's something they don't know. And there's an area where they're weak and they want to strengthen that for their company. So they're bringing in someone who's strong at that. And they're going to, they'll bounce back and forth, and there'll be a, healthy conversation about it. But ultimately, they're bringing you in because you know what you're doing, and hopefully it moves that direction. And I think the red flag for me would be if someone really, if it feels like what they want me to do is just execute on their vision for the company's marketing, and that they have it all figured out, they just need someone to do it for them. And that's not a great fit for me. I will make them miserable. And I have done in the past where I've gotten into that situation before.
So how can people find you if they've now heard you, they want to work with you, they want to talk to you? How can they find you?
I'm pretty active on social media. I'm a big believer in education. So I post a lot of content trying to help educate small business owners, even ones that don't become clients. So if you just search anything for James Archer, I'll probably come up, and you can always go to jamesarcher.co as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys again for joining us for another What the Frac Live. This one was packed with great insights for fractionals, business owners. We have episodes dropping every week. So go subscribe to us on YouTube, whatthefractshow.com. We're on social media, and now we are on anywhere you listen to podcasts. So with that being said, happy marketing, everyone.
Happy marketing. And thank you, Mr. Chris, for joining and watching and supporting James.
Oh, yeah, I see that. Yay.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.